Okay, this is the second half, I guess, of the zoo story. So we have a small zoo. There are two rabbits, I guess you can call them, Syrian rabbits. And there was a black and white raccoon that we had from the zoo. And I kept visiting Johnny from time to time, the way I told it last time. Now we have to remember that there was a war going on in 1950-51, and America was fighting in Korea. And I suddenly, in 1952, received a letter from the Army. Your number came up. You have to appear for draft within 21 days. And I wrote I guess a nasty letter, but what I wrote was one army at a time. I'm serving right now in the Israeli army, which also belongs to the UN, and the war with Korea is one that all of the UN is supposed to be participating in. So I'll finish that army, and then you can call me after that. At which point I was notified that they had a warrant out for my arrest. However, in 1958, I decided one way or the other I really have to come home, visit my parents, let them see. I had two lovely granddaughters for them and a wife, and they hadn't seen any of us. It had already been something like 9 years since I left America, and we had to go. So we planned it very, very carefully. In those days, really, when a plane landed in wasn't even Kennedy, but in LaGuardia Airport, the customs and everything else was like a short walk away. It was a small area. And I expected this, I understood this, because I said, if questions are asked, as if my name is on a list where it pops up because there's a warrant out, then I'll run to the El Al airplane and I'll hide there, and you go on, carry on. So this was the plan. We got on the plane. You have to remember, tiny Ziva, little Nuri, and Ophira had never flown before, and never been out of the kibbutz before, really, other than to get to Tel Aviv. And we started flying, and in those days the airplanes weren't always smooth. Sometimes they'd bounce up and down, and everybody'd get thrown around, and you got paper bags to throw up in. Well, thank God we had the children, because Nuri and Ziva got so excited, and they were jumping up and down, and they were so happy, and the hostesses came running to play with them and to make them feel good, and brought them candies, and the flight went really very, very well because of that. We got off, we get in line, we're moving up, we're standing in line, and we had, Ziva had I think both of them, but Ziva had a hat, a sun hat, as we get to the place where they're customs, they're checking your passports, they take our passports, and the man there is looking at the passports, he's looking at the pictures of the kids, and he's looking at us, and then he looks at Ziva, and he says, "Put her up here on the counter, please." So I start backing off, ready to make a dash for the plane. Ophira is shaking, and she lifts Ziva up, puts her on the counter. I mean, like an object, like a suitcase or something, just sits her down, and he looks, and he looks, and he looks, and he says, "I've never seen such a beautiful girl. You can go on." So our hearts came back to the place they were supposed to be, and we were able to get into the United States. And apparently, even though there was a warrant out for my arrest, they didn't publish it at border points. And that's the way we got there. We got there and we went straight to a family. Ophir had family in the city of New York City, in Manhattan, Upper Manhattan. And we were staying there for a while. The kids, we had a nanny who would come and look after the kids. One day we come home and she says, "What's candy Lavan?" And the kids wanted marshmallow, and they were trying to talk in English, so their English was candy Lavan. At any rate, we were set in there, and then we went to visit my parents. And it was, for me, I grew up in the house. It was a small house, very small, but it was like a 3-room apartment. We got there, it was really crowded, and Ophir said, we're not gonna stay here. So, okay, but we were going, and I said, the first thing we have to do is we had to go to some place in near Wall Street to get, I think it was, I wanted to go shopping, and we went to Orchard Street. So we're in the subway. In the subway, what does somebody, a New Yorker, do in the subway? He looks at the map, sees where we have to get off, and goes to sleep. So I'm sitting there with my wife and 2 kids, and I close my eyes and I open them at every stop or so. I open my eyes, I see this is the stop we had to get off at. It was one stop after Wall Street, I remember. I look, and I forget that I have a wife and 2 children. I was back in, like a kid in New York. And I just get up and I walk off the train. And all of a sudden I hear somebody calling, "Abba!" And I turn around, I see Ophir White as a sheep with the 2 little girls standing there. And the doors are already closed, and I run back and I try and get my hands in and I yell, "Next station, get off at the next station." She nods her head, and that's the way we continued our trip. I had to get the next train, and they were waiting, and we continued on, and then we moved into an apartment hotel in Manhattan, Upper Manhattan. And we stayed there for the rest of the time. We had a trip all across the States, came back, and before we were leaving, around 10 days before we were leaving, I decided I had to go and visit the Bronx Zoo, which was then the biggest zoo in America, and see if I can do business with them. I could be a representative. So I got into a train and I went to the Bronx Zoo, and I walked in there, and they want to sell me a ticket. And I said, "Look, I'll buy a ticket. It's okay, but I have to see the curator because I am one of the 2 curators of the Kibbutz Urim Zoo." And they said, "Ah, okay." And I suddenly got the VIP treatment. I was brought into this office. A woman is sitting there, and she said, "I'm responsible for the cat side, lions, tigers, and like that, and my partner is responsible for the mammals." And she said, "Here, we'll have somebody take you around." And 2 people come and they take me and they give me the tour of the whole zoo, which takes like an hour and a half. We're walking around, showing me everything. I come back. In the meantime, apparently she'd done her homework. And I come in, I sit down, she says, "Well, how are things in your zoo?" And I said, "They're fine. We have a very small zoo." She said, "Well, of course, you have a very small population in Israel." So I said, "Well, we'd like to expand our zoo, and I was thinking of making an exchange." And she says, "Yes, what were you thinking?" I said, "I was thinking of bringing some fat-tailed sheep, because I know that they don't exist in North America at all. And she said, well, that's too much trouble. There's quarantine and disease and like that. And she always, we would really like, she said, I checked on the map, and in your area, you have long-eared Palestinian hedgehogs. Whereas in the rest of your country and further on, the hedgehogs are all short-eared. And the main difference is that the long-eared hedgehogs maintain family life. And what we will do is, if we get a pair and they can reproduce, we'll have a glass case with toys and things that they can play with, and they will see a family of hedgehogs living their lives naturally. And that'll be really a great attraction for the children. And this really happened, and I didn't get there, but I saw a little film of how the kids can come and look at these things. But I said, well, certainly, because we have hedgehogs all the time. Our tractor drivers at night do their best not to kill them, but I'll just ask for a couple. So we made a deal. I said, well, what am I going to get in return? So she said, well, we have a kinkajou. I said, what's a kinkajou? She said, it's a honey bear. I said, well, what's a honey bear? She said, it's from the raccoon family. I said, we have a raccoon. So she said, yeah, but not like a honey bear. The honey bears are tame, and you can just walk around with them on a leash. Raccoons are wild. You can't do that with them. They'll bite the first chance they get. It's a very nice, good-looking animal. She showed me a picture before we went out, and I said, okay, honey bear. And what else? And she said, well, what would you like? I said, a monkey. She said, we have a spider monkey for you. So I said, oh, good. The little monkey is just right. And she said, and I'd like to give you 4 caiman. I said, what's a caiman? She said, caiman is the alligators that grow in the swamps in Florida. I'll give you 4 of them. They'll be in hibernation, and you can stay like that for a month or 2 months without needing food or anything. And when you get to the kibbutz and everything is ready, you can open them up and take them out. I was not wise enough to really listen to her, but I said, okay, 4 alligators, great. So I call a taxi, or they call one for me anyway, and the taxi driver comes in, and we put the animals in the back. They had a small cage for the kinkajou, the honey bear, and they took a bird cage for the little monkey, and with wire they tied it up, and I had all the animals there. However, this is a hotel that I'm going to actually. It's an apartment hotel, and there's a reception, and there's a big sign, no pets or other animals. So I tell the taxi driver, look, I'll give you $10 extra after we finish the trip and we get there. What I want you to do is you walk in first, and I will carry in the animals that are packed nicely in 2 trips. You talk to the lady at the desk and keep her occupied until you see that we've gotten into the elevator. And I'll give you the $10 in advance. He said, sure, no problem. And that's the way it went. We drove from the Bronx Zoo to Manhattan. It wasn't too long a drive. We get there. It's evening time. Take out the animals in two trips, and he's talking to the lady there, trying to offer his services. He's leaving a card anytime somebody needs a taxi and like that, and I get in, I go upstairs. All's well. I bring him into our little one-room apartment. It was like a bedroom and a small living room and a kitchen. And I bring the animals into the kitchen. And Ophir is there already shaking a little bit, but it looks not too bad. First thing I do is I take the caiman, the alligators, into the bathroom where there's a bathtub, And I say, I can't stand animals in a box for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. A month it'll be until we get to the kibbutz. So I open up the box and I let the alligators out and I put water in and they go flopping around very nicely. However, they carry the smell of the swamp with them. I didn't realize that. I mean, I thought they'd be clean. And all of a sudden, this odor fills up our whole apartment. So the Führer is saying, this is really bad. And I say, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it, but only 10 days and we're going away. And as I'm talking, the little spider monkey was very carefully unwinding the wire, and he gets out. And he gets out, and the kids go, hey, look, there's a monkey. And he starts flying up around on top of the ceiling, and I don't know what to do. I grab a blanket. That's the only way I can catch him. And that little monkey was really scared. And he sees me going after him, and he starts going, bing, 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 jumping around from corner to corner of the little kitchen. And he starts shitting at the same time. And we have a brown rain covering everybody in the room. And I guess he didn't have any more to propel himself, but he stopped at one point. I grabbed him and I put him in the cage, and I got we had locks for our suitcases and all like that. I got a Yale lock. I was able to lock him in there, and he was able to live nicely in his cage until we had to fly away. This was pretty bad, but we cleaned up afterwards, got used to the smell of the alligators. I mean, I poured a lot more water over them, and it became almost bearable. And I said, look, we'll be leaving soon. It'll be okay. Ophir has learned to accept my craziness, so we stayed that way, and the kids were happy. 2 days later, I called Zim Lines, because we were supposed to go on a boat. Speedy also, he was in America with his 2 kids as well. And we wanted adjoining staterooms. And so I called them and I said, Zim, they said, yes. I said, look, I have some animals. She said, pets? I said, yeah, some pets I want to bring with me. And she said, yes, what kind of pets do you have? Very nice. You have a dog? I said, no. I said, I have a honey bear. She said, honey bear? I said, yeah, it's a little fuzzy thing that you can walk around, the kids will love it. And I have a monkey, and she said, oh, okay, all right. And I also have 4 caiman, 4 little alligators. So she hangs up. I have to go in a week. I call back, I do the same thing. They hang up on me. So I wait an hour or so they won't think it's the same guy. I call again, and as soon as somebody answers, I say I want to talk to the person responsible for what do I call it? Guest relations or customer service. So she said, okay, why? I said, I have a complaint. So she said, can you tell me why? I said, no, I'd like to talk to the man. And so some man comes over and says, yes, sir, what can I do for you? And I said, look, I've got some animals that I'm bringing with me to the kibbutz. So he says, yes, what kind? And I said, I have a little monkey in a cage. Oh, that's nice. And I have a honey bear, also in a cage. And he says, all right. And I have these 4 little alligators, but they're in a box. So he says, I'll get back to you. An hour or so later, he calls back, and he says, it's all right, I organized it with the ship. You'll have to pay $5 for each animal, and they'll have to stay together with you in your stateroom. I said, thank you, very, very happy. And then I start bargaining with them. I say, but the 4 alligators are in 1 box, so they have to be treated as if they're 1 animal. So I only have to pay $15, not $35. And he says, okay, $15. We closed the deal, everything was good. A couple of days later, we get into a taxi. I put the alligators back in their box, and we're on our way to the boat. We get to the boat, and it's a very small stateroom with 4 beds. And we're there, 4 people, and the animals are there. And I'm trying to think how I'm going to put them in the bathtub. There was a bathtub, really, and they're going to start stinking. And I didn't know what to do. And Ophir is saying, you have to get them out. You have to do something. I had to agree. I'm crazy, but not that crazy. It was really impossible to stay. And all of a sudden, there's a knock on the door, and this woman comes in shaking. And she said, you have animals? And I said, yes. She said, I'm so frightened of animals, and I have to take care of them. I have to feed them for you. And I don't know what to do. Is there any way I can convince you to take care of feeding the animals? So I said, yes, we'll strike a deal. And she looks and she says, what deal? And I said, I'll take care of the animals, I'll feed them every day, and everything will be fine. Just find me another place for them, because you see how crowded it is here in our little stateroom. So she says, wait a couple of minutes, I'll go and I'll see what I can do. She comes back and she says, yes, the main purser has agreed. There'll be 2 people to come to escort you and the animals to their permanent abode on the boat. I said, great. 2 big guys come in. They were ready to help us carry. They just had to carry the cages. I'm walking freely. We have to go down to the very bottom of the ship. The ship had something like three decks. The lowest deck. In the lowest deck, in the very front, in the prow, there's a small little wood cabin with 2 doors. And he comes with the key to one door, and he says the other door stays locked, you don't go in. He opens this door, you walk in and you have a little room, and then to the left in the room was a toilet with a bathtub. And he said, this is yours, and there's of course another door there to the other side, which was locked, and he said, you don't touch anything from the other side. This is your half. And I said, okay, great, this is wonderful. I untied the animals, and I put the alligators in the bathtub, opened the water, let them swim around a little bit, and I walked out. I said, thank you, I have the key, I'll feed them every day, no problems. And 2 weeks the trip took, and every day Speedy and I would come, I'd take the food down, we'd take out the monkey and the honey bear. We'd walk around the steps and the different levels of the boat, and all of the little kids that were traveling to Israel would come and they'd clap and they'd watch us. We had a whole show going every day. And of course our kids were there and they enjoyed the show. And this went on until around the 10th day, or 11th day. It was like 13 days the whole trip, and there was a storm in the sea, Mediterranean, okay, base. But there was a storm, and the boat was rocking because in those days you didn't have the stabilizers that we have now, and nobody really came to eat except us. We had our breakfast, and all alone, things were flying around, but we had it, and I got the food and I went to feed the animals, which was very tricky because of the movement, but I managed to do it. It was sort of like in the movies, holding on to the side of the deck, water rushing between your legs. I get to the cabin and I unlock it and I open the door, and people will say it was black in front of my eyes, but it's the opposite. All I saw was a white wall. I didn't see a room, I saw a white wall. It was a white paper wall. I didn't know what to do. I just pushed the food in. I closed the door, and I went. I was really scared. I didn't know what to make of it all. Next day we were on our way into Haifa port in the evening. I go there in the morning and I force my way in, and what do I see? I see that the animals had gotten loose, both the monkey and the kinkajou and the honey bear. And in the bathroom, the door leading to the second half of the little hut was open, and what they had there was sanitary napkins and toilet paper for passengers. It was full. What does a bored monkey and raccoon do, honey bear do when they're bored? They take the paper and they tear it up into confetti. And all the paper filled up the whole area of both rooms up to the top. Well, I didn't have to worry about the alligators. They were in the bathtub. The animals could fend for themselves. I gave them food. They ate their food. So I stooped the food in, locked the door, went out, and said to Ophir, "We have a problem. We'll worry about it." How? We'll worry about it. So it's Friday night. We land in Haifa port. 3 big sailors come walking in and they say, "We have to clean up after the animals. You'll have to take the animals here." And I said, "Look, it's really hard for us to do that. We're packing. Look at this mess balagan, that we have here. And it's Friday night anyway. You're not going to go cleaning up now. You have off Shabbat, Sunday morning, come in before the boat leaves, you can clean up, and we can take the animals at our leisure." They said, "Wonderful idea, thank you so much." They go out, and we were free, and we took the animals out very carefully. I packed them, closed the door with all the confetti inside, locked it up, and that's the way we disembarked. The story didn't end there. Israel has bureaucracy. I come with my animals to enter them into the country. They say you have to put them into what do you call it? A quarantine. I say, "How long?" 21 days. I said, "Well, they'll die in 21 days. They can't live under these conditions, none of the animals." They say, "We're sorry about it. We can try feeding them, but, we're not supposed to." So I say, "Okay, give me a telephone." And there's a special line in the kibbutz to my friend, the veterinarian, who was also in charge of HaChaklai, which was the insurance company for all of the animal life in the country at the time. And he was the head man. I call him up and I say, "Eli, you got to help me." And he says, "Okay, let me talk to them." And like in the old days, it was very easy to cut bureaucracy when you knew somebody. So the bureaucracy was cut. I got the animals. We got a car, and it took us back to the kibbutz, and the animals were all there. I set them all up. Sadly, we were having a cold spell because this was all we left was already in October, beginning of November, and even though the alligators had a beautiful place to be with a little roof around them and a little pond outside where they can swim around in, there was a frost that night and they froze before we had a chance to put in kerosene heaters, which we intended to do the next morning. However, the other animals that were there and our zoo thrived for a number of years. When I stopped working with sheep, they were moved into an area that was like a children's area, which was expanded. I later worked there. We raised ducks and things like that. But that really is the end of the zoo story. Thank you, everybody.